You obviously care about the future of this state, which is what I care about. As Ray mentioned, I am an immigrant from a communist country, 90 miles off the coast of Florida, the Southern Keys. And we're political refugees in this country, so I'm not going to go through all that background. But I have served in public life since 1992. I was a candidate for the Texas House of Representatives. I was elected 6 years to the Houston City Council. I ran for mayor twice. I was elected county treasurer, so I do have a little political experience. All of it as a conservative that loves this country because of the opportunities that I've had as an immigrant. Unlike what the media will tell you, that, we're just horrible people and, we don't like immigrants. No, we love immigrants. This country was built by immigrants, and we want everybody to have an opportunity. But the pie's only so big, so we have to make sure how many people we invite to the table, right? Because if everybody in the world comes here, there are not enough resources to take care of everybody. So we have to do it in an orderly fashion. But when I was on the city council, I noticed that Republicans were enjoying a wave. I remember when Ann Richards and the Texas House and the Senate were dominated by Democrats. Yes, I'm pretty old. And then I saw Republicans start to wake up. I was involved with an organization called Associated Republicans of Texas, and their only goal back in the mid-90s was to ensure that Texas became conservative, that we won the House and the Senate so that legislation that came out of Austin was conservative legislation. We accomplished that. And George W. Bush beats Ann Richards, and he garners 47% of the Latino vote in Texas. Before you get too excited, we're down to the 20s. And so that trend to me was very disturbing. And so I'm following Professor Murdoch at Texas A&M, who is the state demographer. He's now over at the University of Texas in San Antonio. And he's predicting this huge rise in the Hispanic community. And so today, over 40% of Texas is Latino. Many are undocumented, not all, many are undocumented. And we'll get to that if I have time. And so the media has taken advantage of that to portray Republicans as hateful people that hate immigrants. And we have rested on our laurels for a quarter century in Texas because we have dominated the state. From the governor's mansion to the lieutenant governor to the attorney general to state district judges in Harris County, we had it all. Why go out and work? Meantime, the Democrats were working extremely hard, and the leftists in this country were working extremely hard to make sure that conservative leadership in this state dwindled. And that's what's happening. And so now, we as conservatives are starting to wake up and realize none of what they're selling is what we want. I always say that nothing that the left is selling appeals to Latinos. We're not buying. The problem is that the message isn't getting through to the Latino community. And by the way, the same is true in the African American community. But I'm focused on the Latino community because I'm an immigrant. It's a big state. My hands are full. I hope that in the African American community, they will organize an organization that takes a conservative message to the African American community. But we've got a lot of work to do, and it's starting to pay off. Last year before the election, I made a prediction that South Texas was going to save Texas and keep it conservative. See, when I was 18, I was stationed at Laughlin Air Force Base in Del Rio, Texas. I'm sure you all now know what Del Rio, Texas is. Before that, you had no clue. But when I was 18, I was stationed at Laughlin Air Force Base, right on Highway 90. To the south of Highway 90 is the Rio Grande River. And to the north are all the ranches, the great state of Texas, and the high plains of Texas. And every weekend in the evenings, I'd see men crossing over, mostly from Mexico, some perhaps from Central America, and they would just calmly walk across Highway 90 and go work ranches, maybe get a hitchhiker to get a ride to San Antonio, maybe to Dallas and Houston. And they've created a family here. They've been living here for 35, 40 years. So when you hear that the population of undocumenteds in the United States is anywhere between 11 to 20 million, that's probably true, and it's closer to 20 million. Here's the problem for us. Of those 20 million, a lot of them are married, good, hardworking people, taxpayers, go to church, their children are U.S. citizens, and they're coming up to vote. But they've been hearing this message from the left that we as conservatives are anti-Hispanic, anti-immigrant, and all that crap. And so when these 18-year-olds start voting, they're brainwashed. So when you ask yourself, how do we get a leftist elected in Harris County that once used to be conservative, because that's what Lena Hidalgo is, I'm sorry to say that, a leftist, that's how. And this wave just caught us off guard. Now here's, the good news is rural Texas is still conservative, but there ain't enough people in rural Texas to keep up with the growth of urban Texas. So at some point, what you have seen in Bexar County, in Dallas County, in Travis County, El Paso County, and we all experienced it in 2018 in Harris County, is going to happen to the state of Texas unless we all work together as Americans and as Texans for the prosperity of everybody. And so that's what we do at our PAC. Our political we have two organizations. One's a general purpose political action committee. Where's Donna? You're going to tell me when my time's up, right? We have a general purpose PAC that we try to help conservative Hispanics that are seeking to run for office in the state of Texas. And we have a 501c4 nonprofit organization where we can't say by the tax code, vote for so-and-so. But we can educate the voters. We can go into communities and talk about the difference between liberalism and conservatism, the difference between higher taxes and prosperity for your family, the difference between having choice in schools and a failing government school like HISD. You know, the sad thing is that if you look at the statistics at HISD, almost 50% of Latino kids, and I don't know what it is in the African American community, are dropouts. Nobody talks about that. And so those are issues we need to start addressing because every child in Texas is our future. Regardless of skin color, regardless of sex, orientation, that is the future of Texas. And unless we as conservatives roll up our sleeves and make sure that every child in Texas gets a good education, we're really going to be in bad shape because that's the future workforce of Texas. And it's a lot cheaper to educate kids than to build prisons. And so what we do is we help young Hispanic conservative candidates, and I'm going to give you a couple examples of what we've done, and then we educate the community, we motivate them, and we engage them. We do that primarily through an organization that we call Leadership Latino. And Leadership Latino is a one-day seminar where we take young people from across the state. We'll do them in Dallas. We've got 2 scheduled this month. We're going to be in Harlingen next Saturday. We have 45 kids signed up to hear how to become active in politics, whether they're going to be precinct chairs, activists, campaign managers, or candidates. And in one day, we talk to them about how to file a treasurer's report with the Ethics Commission or the local county official, how to raise money, how to talk to the media, how to be a good candidate, what issues to talk about. And I'll give you a couple of examples. One of our candidates was a young lady, and this is 2019, I'll never forget it, in Harlingen, Texas, December of 2019. She came in very quiet, very humble, daughter of 2 Mexican immigrants. Her name was Mayra Flores. She is now running for U.S. Congress in the 34th Congressional District in Harlingen. And so many of you are going to say, well, what's the big deal? She's one person. Before she ran for Congress, because she attended our seminar, she was motivated and started on social media. In short order, she had over 45,000 followers, mostly from South Texas. And so these young kids are influencing their peers. Not old people like me, but Mayra Flores. Let me give you another example of what we do. We got called from Fredericksburg, Texas, about back in May, A young man, 18 years old, was running for Fredericksburg City Council against a liberal former mayor of Port Arthur, Texas. And she was winning and was actually getting the help of some Republicans in Fredericksburg. So we organized a rally at the Wyo Ranch Hotel. If you've ever been to Fredericksburg, you know what that is. At 8 o'clock in the morning on a Friday morning, because the next day was early voting. We expected about 25, 30 people. We had over 180 people showed up. And Roman Garcia, a kid that's 18 years old, just graduated from high school, has aspirations to go into the Naval Academy, was elected the youngest city councilman in Texas. But we're not going to take credit as Texas Latino Conservatives for doing that, because we had to work together with everyone else. So we reached out to the Texas Federation of Republican Women. We reached out to the RNHA, one of our partner organizations, Republican National Hispanic Assembly, and the NHRT, Hispanic Republicans of Texas. And we had the help of Allen West, Colonel Allen West, our former state chairman. And I'm telling you, we had to double the size of the room. It was phenomenal. We have helped people like Joel Castro, city councilman, mayor pro tem of the city of Alvin, Texas. Freddie Arellano became the youngest county chairman in Maverick County, Texas. Y'all know where Maverick County is? It's on the Rio Grande in Eagle Pass, Texas. And if you look at the numbers, what Freddie was able to do and get Hispanics to vote for conservatives is nothing short of amazing. And you know, the good news is the district that was represented by the congressman that resigned, what was down there?
24.
No, he's a former Aggie CIA agent. Anyway, he resigned. South Texas, the Democrats thought they were going to win.
Yeah.
Guess who the community in Southwest Texas that's generally Democrat elected? Tony Gonzalez.
Yeah.
And so we're doing good stuff, but we've got to all work together, and all of you have to engage the diverse communities of Harris County, because without you as partners, what we're doing is a colossal waste of time. And so if I had time, you know, I'd go through some of the things that we're trying to do, but I just don't have the time. I'm down to 5 minutes. But we're talking about issues that are important to the Hispanic community. We're talking about immigration. Immigration laws in this country have not been reformed since 1986. And the problem is Congress, except Dan Crenshaw, who's my buddy, Congress has become a lazy bunch that just wants to get reelected and won't risk a primary or a general election by taking the lead. Someone in Congress has to lead on immigration reform. We have a proposal. I don't have time to go over it, but it is, you know, Republicans are great about fixing problems in government. And I'm always puzzled by the fact that an easy fix to the immigration issue is this. If you're an undocumented alien and you've been here, let's say 20 years, you have a family, your kids are going to school, they're U.S. citizens, you're a taxpayer, why don't we document them? Why not give them a document that says who they are? And by the way, you don't get a pathway to citizenship and you don't get to vote. Let me tell you why I tell you that. In 1986, when Ronald Reagan signed the Immigration Reform Act, 63% of Hispanics never applied for citizenship that were here illegally. All they wanted was a green card to stay here and work. So why don't we give them documentation? And you know, to me, it's so easy. And the other issue we're talking about is prosperity in minority communities, particularly what I'm focused in, the Hispanic community. One of the biggest problems in Texas for the Hispanics is type 2 diabetes and obesity for young children. Any of you in the healthcare industry know that. And one of the biggest drivers to obesity and diabetes type 2 is the lack of opportunity economically. And so we want to bring economic opportunity to people so they can have better access to healthcare. And then finally, we talk about education. As you all know, in 2018, I held a press conference in front of the Houston Independent School District. I was assaulted by the left for asking the governor to take over the failing schools that were failing our children. And so that was a fiasco, and this is what we're facing, is a very militant, well-organized frontal assault. But we have got to engage, and we can do that, and we can reach out to diverse communities of Harris County because everybody wants a safe neighborhood. I mean, I predicted that South Texas would go conservative because there's 3 industries that keep kids out of poverty and provide them a future in South Texas. One is law enforcement. If you go down to Del Rio and you look under that international bridge, a huge percentage of the DPS troopers are Latinos. If you go through the checkpoint on Highway 90 between Uvalde, Texas and Del Rio, Texas, 93% of the CBP, Customs and Border Patrol, are Mexican Americans. If you look at the military, the huge number of kids that volunteer for service to defend our country and served in Afghanistan and the Middle East, Mexican Americans. Largest concentration of Medal of Honor winners are Hispanics from Texas. And so they're fighting for us. We've got to figure out that they're Texans just like we are. And together, if we accomplish this, we will have a conservative government in the state of Texas, at least for the rest of my lifetime. So.